Wednesday, January 18th. Let's do roll call. 1 second. We have 2 new members today. Exciting. All right, Dan is here. Angela. No. Okay. Sarah's here. Meryl. Andre is not able to participate, I don't think. Sapna is running a little bit late. Kristen.
Here.
No. Tiffany's here. Adam. That's surprising. Okay. Brandon. Oh, here we have some. Adam's here. Brandon. And Jen, welcome. We will be swearing you in later on in the program. And then I'm here. So I definitely think we have a quorum, right? So 15. Just made it.
Yeah.
Right.
I counted 8 too.
Okay. Okay, we just made it.
Yes. There must be 8.
Yeah, and then when Sapna joins.
It's either 7 or 8, like half.
You need, I think, one more than
plus.
half.
Okay, yeah.
All right. All right, we'll start with our pledge.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Every time I say that, it reminds me when I moved to America and had to like learn it over and over again. All right. The mission of ECS is to educate each student to high academic standards using innovative curricula that will foster knowledge, love of, and respect for the environment and preserve it for future generations. We grow citizens. Our vision, every ECS graduate will be an actively engaged citizen, driving thoughtful change in the world around them. All right. Let's recognize our guest. Sit in for one more meeting. And we did not have any public comment today. All right. All right, if we can move into the consent agenda. The minutes were posted as well as the financial data. Does anybody have any questions around any of the expenses? I'm trying to pull that up. Is Caliber contracting related to the high school? No.
That's the work that's
The upper lot.
Oh, the upper lot. Okay, great. Great, thanks. I haven't checked out the new lot yet. I've only seen the video. I should have hiked it up there. All right. Can you go over the data sharing agreement? I don't think I saw that. Maybe I overlooked it.
Yeah, so what we're hoping to do is partner with the county for some additional mental health services for our middle school specifically, and then also our high school. We met with a representative from the county, and we were told, unfortunately, that the timeline is about 5 years out, and the process has to start with this data sharing agreement. And so what they want to do is make sure that we would be a site that could sustain additional mental health services that would need it. And so that data allows them to reach into the school and find out a little bit more data about not individual students, but like trends on mental health services that we provide, PBIS, social emotional learning, and things like that. It would allow us also to pull some trends of our families that we might not know also. So the data would go both ways. So this would be the first step. We also have a liaison from the county that has been assigned to our whole district. And so she's been able to help us navigate the system a little bit. She's going to meet with Marissa and our social workers to find out a little bit more about what would need to be done in order to get the process going. We're going to be persistent, and we also are going to remind them that we did start this process probably 2 years ago. And so hopefully that will help us get higher on this mythical list of schools that's out there. So, but we really do need that data sharing agreement now if we want to be able to take that service later. Yeah.
too.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yet. How long of a timeline do they need to collect the data? Is it months? Is it years?
It's not actually a collection. It's more about just finding out what we already have and what they know. So it immediately when we get that data sharing agreement, they can find out what we've already collected. We can find out what they have.
Okay.
It paints a picture for the county and allows the county to say whether or not we are a school that would benefit from additional services. And we even ask them, because we have a lot of what we feel are pretty, robust student services. We asked if that would be a hindrance, and they actually said it's probably a good thing, because what it means is that even with this high level of service, you still have a need. So they'd rather see that than a school that doesn't have a social worker, school psychologist, and things like that.
That's
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. John, do you want to give an update speak a little bit more about the foundation update?
Sure.
I see there's a resolution.
If you're a board member, you've probably been prodded by Nicole Schaefer already, right? Some nods out there. So she's busy. She actually met with Ben this morning, and ultimately we're off to the races there. So her intent is that she'll be providing every other month, coming to board meetings, providing a live, if not in the consent agenda, will be an update of activities. She's using a sort of national framework that she shared with Ben this morning for providing feedback to the board around our progress as we build out the foundation. So off to an early and robust start. Her intent is to meet with every one of the board members here, explain the journey, explain how she's working, and then not necessarily tap you for money. That's not the point at all. So there. But ultimately, it's to tap into your network and to understand how you operate across the city. So she's got a sort of full picture of that. So look forward to coffee or something alongside the call.
Okay, great. And it looks like, based on this resolution, that some board members have been identified.
My apologies, right. There is a resolution at the end here. You as a board to permission to founding board members, and as I was discussing with the board last week, those are two former board chairs, and their skill set lives. One is a district DA, the other one has Ben, and most of you work with Ben, so finance and law. And to get to full compliance, we're looking for one more, and so the search is on for one other person. So anyone has any ideas when you meet with Nicole, please push those forward.
Are there specific areas of expertise you're looking to fill at this time to get started?
Yeah, and I think I'll push that conversation to Nicole. She has a sort of very distinct set of who she wants and who she's looking for. And
Okay.
I want to jump in her way there.
Got it.
It helps if you have a massively rich aunt. We need to thank, while we're on there, I'll put on the record that thanks to Dr. Doyle, James Doyle, who is working with her too to connect her with that great foundation. He's doing a great deal of work to sort of lay the foundation with her around some of the distinct possibilities given his work now. So we're really fortunate to have James right there. It's almost perfect timing. So, thank you to James. If you're listening on there.
Did anyone have any questions about the emergency instructional time template? Good on that. Okay. I don't think our notary has made it yet. So we will hold off on swearing in Jen and Stan for the moment. But I will go ahead and read the resolutions. So Resolution 2023-12077 be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the school that the consent agenda for January 18, 2023 be approved. Can I get a motion for this approval? Motion. Thank you. Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved. Resolution 2023-12078 be resolved by the Board of Trustees that Ben Witzberger and Amy Constantine, past ECS board chairs and honorable members of the ECS community of supporters, serve as the interim board members for the ECS Foundation for the 2023 calendar year. Any motion on this one? Yes.
Yeah.
All right. First. Can I get it first? Thank you. Sapna. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved. And I don't think anybody had any questions, but I'll give it I'll pause for just a moment before I read the resolution for the PIAA application, if anybody has anything. Okay. All right, Resolution 2023-12079 be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the school that the PIAA application for school membership be approved. Can I get a motion? Second. All in favor? All right, so moved. Okay. All right, we'll move into some board work and Mark? Oh, if Mandy, you're going to take it?
I usually do your board education every month, but I asked Mark Shelley, our executive director of academics for 612, so our middle and high school. I asked him to join us this month because there were some questions about our teacher mentoring program and some of the other initiatives that we're working on and that he's been working on. He's been working a lot with the curriculum and making sure that we have a really strong foundation of teachers and teacher growth model for that high school. He's been able to pull together a program of studies for that high school for this next coming school year that's been really pretty exciting and great. Really good to see that, and then hopefully we'll have some ways to share that with all of you in the coming months too. So he's going to focus tonight on some mentoring and then two other initiatives that he's working on. I think there's a presentation that he'll share with us for a minute, but then also if there's any questions at the end, he can answer them or I can answer them too about some of the work that he's doing. So welcome, Mark, and thank you.
Thank you. Can I just stand here? Is that good?
Yeah, we got a new toy. We have a mic, so maybe you want to come down a little bit further so those
Do
who
I now?
There's a mic in there.
there's a mic.
Oh,
We have two listeners.
Okay.
One of them is Katie. I don't know who the other one is.
One mystery.
Okay. Is that good with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so as Mandy mentioned, I'm sort of Virginia's counterpart. I guess I'm Mr. Virginia Hill. But she and I work very closely together, and it's been a joy to be here the last year and a half. And so what I was going to share with you tonight are a couple of academic initiatives that we're working on really collaboratively that sort of take into account the full K-12 continuum here. And so the first one is we are going to be initiating 2 program reviews starting in late February. And so I won't read all this to you, but a lot of school districts and other organizations will, if they're healthy organizations, will engage in sort of a systematic reflection and analysis of what they do, and then make recommendations for how to improve that. All right, and so that's the basis of what we're doing here. And so one of the things I think we've noticed is certainly a very strong program ECS historically has had at the primary and intermediate. The middle school is still developing, the high school is really developing. And so, looking at what can we learn and suggest to make sure that we have a strong vertical articulation from K to 12, right? And so that's sort of what our purpose is. And so the 2 program reviews, get to that in just a minute, I'm sorry, I forgot to head this slide. Some key characteristics of a successful program review, and I'll won't read everything, but focuses on what's best for students. It seeks internal coherence, right? So in other words, we want to be sure that if we are sort of approaching, one example, assessment and grading at 5th grade level, that we have the same general philosophy that supports our mission at the 10th grade level, right? So we want to make sure that that is internally coherent. I mentioned the school's mission and vision, which is central to what ECS is about, and making sure that especially as we onboard all these new people that aren't part of ECS, that we still have that touchstone that guides what we do, all right? Consistent meeting schedule involves sort of various stakeholders. It's a manageable size committee, and we don't begin with a predetermined outcome. This isn't something where John and I went out for a beer one night and he said, Mark, this is what we got to make sure happens, right? So we want this to be guided by the mission and the analysis of what's going on. We will do focus groups, we'll do some surveys, all that'll be part of the process. And so the first program review is going to focus on grading and assessment. And this comes out of, I think, Virginia and Mandy and I have had a number of conversations. Some of you have heard the terms standards-based grading, student engaged assessment. We know that's done very unevenly in our buildings, right? And we know there have been some internal discussions, even from people who are passionate about standards-based grading, about exactly what that should look like, right? What should it look like? What should it not look like? How do we deal with students if they don't turn in an assignment, right? And so there are all kinds of questions related to that. And so we're going to sort of do a K-12 analysis of how we do grading and assessment. Our goals will be to look for a strong, coherent approach that's rooted in and reflective of our values, a philosophy that promotes and prioritizes learning for all of our students. So a real equity focus is very important to us. We'll discuss homework. I know that's a big question, and different people and teachers and students have all kinds of different sort of views of that, and we will make some recommendations for changes, programs, and points of emphasis moving forward. Okay, so that's the first of the 2 we're going to be looking at. Timeline, as I mentioned, will be starting in late February. The committee will be myself and Virginia. We'll have some home office and curriculum folks, 4 teachers, 1 per building. We'll also have a special ed teacher represented, because the 4 I got from the principals were not all special ed people. And then we'll have a couple of building level administrators. And we'll be meeting every other week. Yeah.
Are they self-selecting to participate, or have you picked out?
I reached out, I met with the curriculum, what we call our CIA team, the curriculum and the administrators, and asked them to submit names that they thought would be a good representative. Before we reached out to those nominees, we made sure we had what we considered a fairly diverse group of people. In other words, we didn't want all people that taught reading.
Sure.
Right? We wanted to make sure we had somebody who teaches diversified studies or specials, right? Because that's something very different. The problem is it'd be great to have 3, 4, 5 people per building, but then your committee becomes sort of unwieldy. And so, we will be very careful about sort of a transparent process. We'll do some surveys, focus groups, and those kinds of things. So far, I've gotten yeses from everybody. And we'll be meeting every other week on Wednesdays for about an hour and a half. We may expand that a little bit. But we're very excited about where this will go. The second one is very, very similar. We're going to focus on English language arts. Now, in the previous districts where I've been, most recently in Princeton, New Jersey, we will sort of create a cycle, a 5 to 6 year cycle. So we might look at English language arts this year and make some recommendations. The next year we might do math. The next year we might do science. And then after 5 or 6 years, you're back to ELA. And so that sort of constant sort of cycle of self-improvement, right? And so there was some discussion about, should we do different subjects first. We landed on ELA. You know, I know there's been a lot of, some of you are very familiar with the discussions around the workshop model, the teachers college model that's at the younger grades. We introduced a phonics program this year to supplement that. So that's one question. We've had some feedback that has not been as evenly sort of put into place at the middle school. And then of course, we're just growing our high school program. And so, you know, looking at what is that K-12 sort of longitudinal ELA arc look like for kids. So if a kid is with us from kindergarten through senior year, what is their experience, right? And so, so we'll be looking at that. Very similarly, the goals will include a strong, coherent vertical alignment. That does not mean that the curriculum will be identical, obviously, for first grade and 10th grade, but it means how can we ensure that we're meeting the standards, both in terms of content and skills in that progression for kids, all right? And what do we want them to be able to do when they graduate as readers, writers, and thinkers? We'll examine all of our curricular and pedagogical approaches, and again, we'll make recommendations for moving forward. Timeline is very similar. What we're going to be doing is meeting so 1 week will be grading and assessment, the next week will be ELA, we'll be alternating those. So we have time when we start, we'll get in, I think it's 8 meetings of each before the end of the school year. We will then see where we are. You know, it could be that we sort of have a good handle on that. Although we might be in a position where we can sort of give a tentative report of where we are and we need to come back in August and September and finish the work because you want it to be done well. So I've never done one of these where we started kind of mid-year like this, but we think it's that urgent a work to make sure we're doing this. This committee is a little bigger. We are going to have 2 teachers per building. And again, similar process to what we did last time. None of the teachers on this one will also be on the other one. We wanted to make sure. And we had to work with our administrators to make sure we can handle coverage. We didn't want one of the issues with doing an after-school committee is all of our schools are staggered in terms of when they let out. So it's really hard to do that. So we wanted to do it during the school hours if possible, but we had to make sure we could sort of cover that administratively. So, any questions about that process? So. All right. And if you do later, please let me know.
That's a tremendous amount of work you got.
Yeah. That's why I got Virginia over here. No, I was kidding. So, one thing I love about working with Dr. Hill is, I think she and I complement and supplement each other very well. And she's taken on a lot of the intense data analysis work with the Danielson model with teachers. And so we've kind of, even though she's K-5, I'm 6-12, I think we've each found sort of the way to put our own experiences and talents to use for the good of everybody K-12. And so and she's just one of the most amazing people, I hope you know. So the second thing I wanted to talk about was our mentoring program. Now, you hear a lot of, and I'm still new to Pennsylvania, so there's some lingo I'm learning here. But when somebody becomes a new teacher on what we call a level 1 certificate, they have to go through, I think it terms induction, right, Mandy? Sort of an official induction program with a certain amount of hours and all kinds of things. We are not yet at the point, although Mandy shared with me today, we're trying to get there where we can host an induction program. In other words, we could do all the state requirements in-house. As it is now, if we have a brand new teacher, they have some external supervision for that. But until we get to that point, and hopefully even when we get to that point, we did want to put in a mentoring program with a number of goals. One is to make sure that our new folks have an understanding of and a strong fidelity to our mission, right? Because it's one thing to come in and say, oh, this is what ECS is about, but it's another to see it in action. And the second is to retain good teachers, right? And to try to ease or lessen the stress that they feel, right? And it's a very stressful time. It's a stressful profession, especially post-COVID, but what can we do to provide the support that's there? Some people obviously need that more than others. So we developed this program based on research and best practices in other districts. And essentially what we have is a program where I'm kind of the coordinator. And with the principals, we selected a mentee for each new employee here. Now we're just starting with teachers. We're not doing paras yet or other folks, okay? So I might select Mandy to be a mentee. She agrees to that. Michelle, in her slush fund, found some money for stipends for to help offset to help pay these people for their time, because they're giving a lot of their time to sort of support these people. And so we selected a mentee. We pair them with a mentor. Excuse me. I was using my wrong words. The mentee is the person. The mentor is the person we selected. My apologies there. And so we pair these people up. I met with them. We have a mentoring guide, which I've linked up there, and I will send this presentation out afterwards, and you can look at the mentoring guide. And essentially, we have 3 tiers. So if you come to us and you've taught less than 2 years, you're on tier 1, right? If you've taught between 2 and 3 years, you're on tier 2. And if you've taught for many years, you're on tier 3, okay? And our expectation is that everybody will finish through tier 3. So in other words, if I come in with 5 years experience, my needs are mainly acculturating to ECS and understanding our mission and vision. And I'm in the program for 1 year. If I'm a brand new teacher, then it's a 3-year program. And they're basically a certain set of activities that they have to complete every quarter. It'll be things like there's a meeting log where they just need to document that they talk about, what do we do at back to school night? What is Earth night? What does this mean? All these kinds of this terminology and things like that. There is 1 activity per quarter, and that could be things like, if I'm a brand new teacher, my mentor is going to come observe me, and we're just going to discuss it. All right. And then I might go observe them and we'll discuss it. I might go observe another sort of veteran or master teacher in the building. We might videotape a lesson and watch it together and talk about it. It's non-evaluative and it's confidential. All right. So we want to make sure that we help support them, with a friendly face, a supportive face, that we feel this person represents what ECS represents. That makes sense to everybody? Yeah.
How many people do you anticipate being involved, and when is it starting?
So it's in the works right now. So we have, I think it's about 17, 18 mentees right now. And then we have a couple of mentors who have more than 1 mentee. So they have multiple ones. It's ideal to find somebody that teaches the same subject, the same grade level. That's not always possible. But we do try to keep them within the same buildings. And we have some forms that'll ask for their feedback both mid-year and at the end of the year. Is there anything we can do to improve the program? We also have a no-fault exit agreement. So if they're just not jiving with each other, they can let me know and we'll find somebody else, on either side. And I think that's important. So, but the idea is to be supportive. This isn't something where the principal can go say, well, is this person really, it's a confidential relationship, and we wanted to keep it that way.
Yeah. What's the time commitment for the mentor?
It's I'm not sure hours. I think it's about 15 hours a quarter for the year 1 people, and then 10 and 5. I think that's right. So it's a substantive commitment. And I was kidding about Michelle, but we are paying them just like we do a stipend for other commitments, because it is important. So yeah.
How much of this content is driven by PDE versus internal?
How much? This is ours.
This is all us.
This is all us. Now there are things in here that will certainly interface with an induction program, and eventually once we're ready to do that, we will marry the 2, right? So that essentially we might have to tweak our, let's say, year 1 expectations to meet what the state's requiring. But we wanted to create our own. Some of this is based on where I've worked before. Some of it I've reached out to some other schools and districts in the area. So we put this together. So.
I'm sorry, I missed the connection of if this was at the request of the teachers, this is required, or if it was top-down driven.
We're requiring it. I mean,
okay, but it's not.
We said it's an expectation.
But it's not required from another entity.
No,
so this is something
this is something we're requiring, and I've worked with Frida so that starting this coming year, when we're doing hires for next year, this will be communicated up front.
Okay.
And I want to frame it not as a burden, but as an opportunity.
We have something similar at my job, and it is very
Very
well
good, right.
appreciated from both ends.
Yeah.
Because the mentor learns from the mentee.
Absolutely.
Sometimes just as much. So
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I also think look, there'll be some teachers who, even though you might be my mentor, I might just naturally gravitate to this other person, and that's fine,
fair.
right? But there's some people who just really, we don't want them to feel lost, and sometimes that's the case, and they don't know who to ask for help. And so a couple of the relationships seem to be going just absolutely fantastic. And none of them seem like, I'm not worried about any of them. That twice in the fall, and I'll do it 2 more times. I've gone to each school and just done little check-ins with them, that kind of thing.
It's good.
Do you do any kind of not necessarily training, but something with the mentors before you start all this process?
This year it was a 30-minute meeting because it was sort of late getting going. Next year we'll do something more formal. And in fact, we tried to pull it together this year. We wanted to do a mentor-mentee lunch during that first PD week for teachers, but we just didn't have it sort of together yet because I was at the beach. Not the whole summer, but right. But we'll do something a little, and part of that'll be the feedback I get from them at the end of the year about what would help, and I'm sure that would help to do a little more specific training.
To piggyback on what Dan asked, does the state have induction requirements?
Well, they do. What this will not. So if you were a first-year teacher, this would not give you all the PDE first-year requirements because we're not. Is it certified, Mandy? We're not.
Yeah.
We don't have an approved program for that.
You have to go through a pretty lengthy process to get an induction program approved, because what it does for our teachers allows them to then apply for that level 2 certification. So it is from the state.
Yeah. So it's sort of a catch-22. I mean, on the one hand, it would be wonderful to do that in-house, but then we are a little more constrained by the PDE when we do that, right? So this was sort of our, I don't say patchwork, but it's a bridge, I think, to what we hope to do. But we also don't want to just focus on those first-year teachers because myself, I'd worked for 25 years and I came to ECS and it's a very different environment here, right? And so helping folks understand that and how that then should manifest itself in their interactions with students is really important. So.
I also think it helps, foster culture as well, right?
Absolutely.
Do they maintain the same mentor?
So we ask for a 1-year commitment with sort of the side that we'd love you to continue, but we also can't. I mean, life happens, right? I mean, obviously somebody could move, but even beyond that, somebody for whether it's childcare reasons or whatever might just not be able to continue the commitment. So ideally, it will be the same person for 1, 2, or 3 years. But we'll, I'm sure there'll be a few instances. And there's a few hurdles we're hitting, like when we've had a couple of folks leave in the middle of the year, then we have to kind of start mid-year with a new person. And so how do you adjust the requirements for that? So we're figuring all that out. Any other questions? And I talked to Mandy today. Later in the spring, we will come back maybe with the principals and give you a little more of an update on the middle and the high school and some plans for moving forward for next year. Carrie Viscicelli and I are doing a parent night on February 7th for high school parents, and so you're welcome to come to that. I'll try to put that when I send this out to you, but we will then take that, because we'll be doing a lot there about what our program is and the first senior class and things, and we will share that with you all as well.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. That wasn't scary. You told me they were scary.
It was nice to see the first time.
So early in the year, the teachers group approached us about adjusting the calendar, and so I'll turn over to Mandy with a response and what work has been done up until this moment.
So I can give you an update on where we are in the process of creating a calendar for next school year. So we've met with our union representatives to talk about what it would get their feedback and all of the different options that kind of exist with the 5 days of the school year that they're asking for. And then we are at the process now where I have those 3 options. I think I told think I brought that last month about the 3 options. So we are getting feedback from the union, they'll gather it from their teachers that way. I'm gonna have Kristen Abe's house get some feedback from parents, and then we'll also seek all the appropriate permission. So we're in a really good spot to kind of keep moving with that forward with our teachers union to kind of working alongside of them, which has been really nice and really helpful. So we don't have a finalized calendar yet, but I can just provide you updates on where we are, and it seems to be going in a really positive direction.
It's good to hear.
Still remains the same pattern, like
Yeah.
days in the front, days
Yeah.
in the middle, or days at the end.
Yep.
Right?
We're getting closer to also getting like when we try to match all of our half days and things like that with Pittsburgh Public Schools. So I'll know a little bit more about their calendar in the coming month. And so it's not ready for release just yet. We actually asked today, and we didn't get their beginning and end dates yet. So I'll try to do as much as I can to get something aligned so that for our families that kind of straddle both, it's a little bit easier too. So that's where we are right now. We don't want to put anything necessarily out without knowing their start and end dates, because that is a pretty big one of those we would like to kind of match up with if possible. So happy to get any feedback from you all. If you want to email me or just provide me any feedback, that would be great too. Yeah.
Yeah, Manny, I want to thank you for working a lot on this issue. I think we often get feedback or visitors here that bring up an issue, and it's just a lot. We don't always have the bandwidth to follow through on every single thing, but this obviously is an issue that's very important to the teachers, and it sounds like we are headed towards a satisfactory solution. I just want to keep alive the possibility that if we now start soliciting feedback from the parents and it's overwhelmingly negative, that we have the option of pumping the brakes or adjusting based on that, and maybe based on PCO feedback, et cetera, too. Because that's the one piece that I don't think we've gotten an opinion about yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that one of the things I'm hoping for is that aligning it with PPS a little bit more. Obviously, we will be longer. We have longer school year, but to align it at one end or the other would be really helpful for parents, so that if they do straddle, it would be a little bit easier. Also, with that, our quarters should line up a little bit better. So that means those half days will line up better. So there's a lot of pros that go along with that. We also heard from our union friends that we did hear some of their feedback, and they actually said it sounds like you listened to our feedback in the option. So going to 2 full fall conference days instead of a day and a half is in the calendar. Things that are really positive to allow some time with families that right now the conferences are like those 15-minute snippets, or they have to happen outside of school hours and things like that. So the union was also feeling very positive about those pieces that are kind of baked into all 3 of those options. So I'm trying to get all of the feedback, and I will do as best as I can to respond to all of it. So.
What time of year do we typically send out the next calendar? Isn't it usually around now?
Well, so we usually get it's the same thing. So it's around now where we start doing these drafts, and then we'll start to get feedback in February, and then it'll be finalized in March, which is about when PPS also finalizes theirs. I think what happened last year is we put ours out a little bit early. I had and then it wasn't the same as PPS. So that's where we got that feedback. So I'd like to wait this year.
But we do know from our constituents, if we get behind PPS, once PPS hits the deck, boy, there's a request in about 4 seconds, like, where is yours? We do that work together, and we often pick up the phone at PPS and say, where are you? And we've done that a couple of times right now. They're close. They're batting it around.
Thank
It's all
you.
good, all positive things.
Yeah, thank you for the work around that. I do have a statement from the ECSFT from Katie Sukanik on behalf of the group, so I will go ahead and read that. So the ECSFT members just voted on an MOU to give health office nurses an additional pay scale. We were really excited to work together to write this new language. It's a well-deserved raise for our hardworking nurses who are carrying our schools through a pandemic. The vacant health office nurse position is now filled so we can provide consistent care to our students. If or when we need to hire new nurses, this pay scale will be more attractive to potential applicants. Since the last board meeting, the ECSFT Executive Committee and Home Office have met multiple times to discuss the hard-to-hire grievance. We had productive discussions the first week of January and last Friday. This past Tuesday morning, the union shared new language, and we hope we are close to a compromise to avoid arbitration. Finally, teachers are pleased to see the Just Discipline Project professionals returning to their spaces this week. The union is happy that this work is being followed up on. We hope we will continue deepening our relationships with Just Discipline as we continue implementing their strategies and practices. Thank you. I know Katie's listening, so. All right. Latonya, do we have an update on Peggy's arrival?
Any second now. Yes, we're waiting on 2 members.
There's the door.
But Peggy's on her way. She tried to time it well. She came from California, and so she took the red eye last night and had a snooze. And she said she was trying to get here as late as she could. So I said 6:45. So any minute now. Which gives us just enough time for those other reports.
Okay. I think that's everyone, right? No? Oh,
It's
so,
me.
oh my goodness, you're right
It's
here.
me.
I am so sorry. I'm here. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Okay, so I will start with, we had another PCO ECS meeting, brainstorming meeting that I touched on last time. The 2 major topics at that table were teacher appreciation and volunteer appreciation and how we spread that love out across the board. And the school's interest in really bringing back the Earth Night events, which have been, I guess, on hold since the pandemic. I was taught just a little bit about it and some of the vendors who have participated in the past. It sounds amazing. We have some ideas going forward, and it just so happens, obviously not this year because it's just too big to plan with such a short bit of time, but next year marks the school's 15-year anniversary, and we're going to try to make it fireworks, and make it really just out of the park. Secondly, so one of your former teachers and a friend of mine, her name is Danielle Fox, and she was talking to me, this is years ago, people, about how she teaches math. And she said some math teachers, like a window blind, will just open the blind a little bit and shine a little math knowledge. And some teachers will open this little section and shine a little light. But Danielle liked to open the whole blind and open up the whole light. And it struck me because I've always stunk at math, but from that, I took it with me, and that's what I want to do with the PCO. I want to take the blind, and I just want to open it right up and shine all the light in. So we're working at those strides. I'm so sorry. With that said, I'm trying to be a liaison to many different moving parts of this community, the school, the parents, our teachers, everything. And I want to just circle back to, I had a parent come to me with a valid concern. So I just want to air that. You guys are caught off guard, so I don't expect to discuss it. I just want to bring it up to maybe circle back next month. And this comes from the September board meeting agenda. And Article 5, there were some policies that were passed. And specifically, policies 10 and 11 regarding the pregnant parent and pregnancy policies and transgender policies. The ask is if policies are going to be passed, just leave them on the shelf for a little bit more time for us to have sort of thoughtful consideration of those policies before they're passed. Which brings me back to this complaint is compelling on many levels. And I think that if we would have had a chance to hear it, we could change the language in some of those policies just to like soften it up a little bit. I don't want to bring the exact details of the complaint. I think it was actually typed up in the September board meeting notes, if you guys want to reference that. So just a little look-see at the language surrounding those two policies would be just greatly appreciated. Okay, next. Let's see. All of our PCO events. Oh my. Okay, so coming up, we have on the 27th, an ice skating rink, an ice skating party event for primary and intermediate. The same ice skating event is going to be offered to middle and high school in February 23rd. Super fun. Shenley Park and the Hunt Armory, which has a temporary skating rink. And if you haven't checked it out, it's cool. What else? Here we go. Another event that we're doing, high school dance. High school dance is happening right here this Friday. You know how excited I get about that. They got most of their donations from Christmas lights, everybody taking down their Christmas lights and Amazon boxes. These kids have decorations out the wazoo, and we just did an Amazon wish list for them too, which was available to them. Jill Farrington is on it. Let's see. We are.
They were here about an hour and a half ago, setting stuff up. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
quite a group.
It's going to be
Yeah,
just keep it coming.
Two
Keep it
presidents
coming.
here.
Aurora Borealis, okay? That's what's happening in here Friday.
Can you, and I don't know if it's too later in the future, it would be cool to kind of just see that wish list from the board, and if the board wanted to contribute.
Sure.
or
Oh my gosh, I
be a
think
part
that
of
would
that.
be great to extend that to you.
Mhm.
Super. The more the merrier there. In addition to that, we also are putting together a game night, February 10th at the intermediate school from 6 to 8. What we're asking is everybody bring a game. So across the board, everybody should be at the intermediate school that night because it'll be fun. As far as teacher appreciation, this is what gets me really excited. So we've been thinking about how do we let our teachers know that we love and appreciate them. And I thought, well, let's just do special things for them. And you can't bring home baked stuff in anymore because of COVID or whatever. And you can't do this and you have handcuffs all over the place. So I said, well, what if we just had somebody donate? So then I got online. Square Cafe was my first stop. And I said, Square Cafe, would you consider donating coffee to our teachers' lounges? To which they said, yes. How many? My God, I lost it. So just last Tuesday, what day is today? Just yesterday, my husband and myself and my kids, there's many members of PCO that want to get involved with this because it's going to be a real heater, I'm telling you. Picked up 2 suitcases. I'm talking carry-on suitcases full of coffee. Dropped one off at the primary school with all the fixings, cups, sugars, stirs, half and half, oat milk, just for nothing. Just hello because we love you. Took it up to the intermediate. This coming Tuesday, they're donating to the middle school, the home office, and the high school, which we will be delivering first thing in the morning. And I'm telling you, the feeling, the ripple effect of this just simple good deed is palpable, period. I walked in to go get those cases, pick them back up in the afternoon, and this one teacher was just in the intermediate school, and she was having a day. You could just tell. And I said, you know what, you should just have a cup of coffee. And I fixed her a cup of coffee, and she said, what's this for? And I said, well, it's from the PCO because we love and appreciate you. And she said, well, nobody ever tells us that. And I said, well, we're trying to change that. And just because Square Cafe said, hey, we would really like to do this on a Tuesday, I said, let's call this initiative the Tuesday morning boost, and let's pound the pavement to every business in this city and say, hey, do you have something to donate to our teachers' lounges? Because we really love and appreciate them. And it's happening. Let me just tell you, it's in the works. Dunkin' Donuts, Giant Eagle, Dee's Cafe, Dee's Hot Dogs, you name it.
Have you tried Red Start? Right
No,
down here?
but
They're
tell me.
shade-grown coffee, so
Yes.
it's all about not disrupting birds' habitats
Ah.
and doing shade-grown. But it's
So
very cool.
ECS.
But it's right on the old Detective Building, right on Station
What's it
Street.
called?
It's called, well, I call it Bird Friendly Coffee, but it's Red Start Coffee. Red Start Coffee Roasters.
Start
And they're right on
Coffee
Station
Roasters.
Street, Penn Circle. It's like a brother and sister
Love it.
owner shop. It's so cool.
People want to give, you just have to ask. And if we already know, the worst thing they can say is no.
Mhm.
Then let's just go for it. So sky's the limit there. And I think, this primary school lost and found project is coming to a close. We missed the deadline. It was supposed to wrap up on the 13th, but I just lost track of time completely. So we're pushing that to the 27th. We're asking everybody to please come and pick up the items that are labeled and pictured in the bags. And if they do not, then we get to give them back to our school. We talked about starting like a free store for anybody who needs it, with starting with those items, maybe some reused or used uniforms. Sky's the limit there too. So let me think. I think I got everything. Tuesday morning boost and So we're going to be getting that lost and found all taken care of, offered back to school, and then whatever's left over is donated, and we can start back over because it's already collecting again. And that's all. That wraps up the PCO for
Well, I want to
this
say
month.
we love and appreciate you today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Hey, I said this. Who benefits from a happy teacher? Well, the whole wide world does, plus our kids. So there you go. Yeah.
You're gonna make a poster of that and put it in the teacher's lounge.
I should put, my posters, I call them my PowerPoint presentations because I'm so tech fancy. I have posters for everything.
Okay, all right, let's shuffle back up, and I'm going to assume you're a notary? Okay, hi, welcome.
We're searching Peggy right now.
Okay, hope she doesn't have to hike it up Colombo. I do, I'm sorry.
Swearing in?
We're Jen and Stan.
Do you guys have your licenses by chance?
It is
It's
formal.
in my car.
Which,
I can go get it if you need. Okay, you need her license. Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem. Where are you, you're not parked far away, are you?
I'm in the back.
In the back. I was about to give her mine. That'll work.
Where you going? You okay to get back to where you go?
Do you have a pen?
I do.
I do.
Everyone has to know.
So, Frank is on. And don't sign until Casey calls you to sign.
Oh, boy.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Oh, you saw my pen.
I did.
Yeah.
It's just, I just hand wrote it.
It's real. I'm with, I'm on the board of Adagio House too.
It's short. It's
Yeah.
a problem.
It's part of stuff. Yeah, really
signing.
appreciate it.
He's not signing.
Oh, yeah, good.
have a leftover
Yeah,
closing.
yeah, that's a challenge.
Are
Bill-
you
Bill knows.
yes. You are you giving the actual oath, Lisa?
I don't know.
They're technically supposed to say the words. So.
I was supposed to read it or they are? John, can you guide us through this?
What am I going to
Do they make the statement of the oath, or how do you want to do it?
Well, I think if the notary reads it and they can raise the right hand, then I think we're.
I was gonna say, we should call her.
Yeah, it's usually the notary. We used to go to the
I
notary's
think we're
house.
supposed to give you a big sword. And
I like that.
The other person who will need extras will be the school nurse.
I work for
In
federal
case,
home
like,
bank.
experts get wet.
Yeah.
and-
remember I had the privilege
Yeah,
of
no, it's
meeting
okay.
the primary
But-
school nurse.
so
at the
I've
coffee
known
thing
BJ
when I
Oh,
was there,
great.
and she was darling.
And even on the board,
Okay, yeah, so
Yeah,
she
I
went
can never
through.
understand.
it's been a
like,
while, but
how-
I hope
Especially
for
starts
did
Did you see
young
those
leaders
pictures?
I haven't, but I can,
And
I've
then
been aware
did that for like 3
box
years
over the years.
Yeah.
Been on
Used
the
to have
board
one here in
since,
middle
but,
school too.
They,
It's like,
I'm
So, yeah.
glad that they have their stuff stacked. What I want to do
that's my
is see
baby,
how
Audrey.
construction
4 months
junction
old
has
now.
their flyers and
When
all
she was
kinds of
younger,
stuff.
but
I would love
Cute,
to
cute.
see
Oh,
like the younger
I know.
kids
She was like
design
making
an
those little
organization
Cheerios faces for a long
and the
time. She's
older
past
kids
that
go
phase,
and
but
pick up the scraps
cute
and
with
build
plastic.
it.
Yeah.
A ladder could be the head, and have all the stuff like
Oh,
before
that's
they
great.
go to school.
I know.
Wouldn't that be cool?
I think it'd be great.
Exactly.
Now she's like, yeah, I could never understand this.
Yeah.
Middle school,
I'm busy. Oh, man. Yeah, that goes quick. My 5-year-old is going to be 6 in a few weeks, and I feel like she thinks she's 11. She's just like, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That like your parents.
She's so grown up already.
Some, that's
It's
why
like
I
so
wrote
like
about
that.
it.
It was, and it's like,
I'm talking like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my
Might
God.
as well fit me.
Seriously,
I
somebody.
was not kidding.
Hi, Peggy.
These kids know more, way more. I mean, she was swiping right when she was like, she just instinctively knew. So it's like,
They just know like a lot more access to information and all of that.
Yep.
So they grow up just quicker. They lose that kid.
I think so.
Yeah.
I actually brought mine and ate it downstairs.
Is Teacher Appreciation Month this month?
No, that's a whole different thing. That was like right before break. They did
Okay.
a whole.
Like a, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so
but
this is
I
just
don't
ongoing.
This is just something for them to look forward to.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Oh, that stuff goes miles. I
Oh.
mean, it really does.
I know, I
So
know.
I'm glad you're doing that.
Me too. And people, I haven't gotten
Peggy, how
anybody
are
on
you?
outside of like
How nice to see
on
you all.
agreed to it. But everybody I've talked to said write a letter
Yeah.
because there's money allotted, especially for big franchises.
Yeah. Yeah, stuff like that. Even Giant
And why
Eagle.
not us?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Giant Eagle.
And I know like the Shapiros. I'm gonna just go, hey Danny,
Yeah.
we need donuts.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah. We need
donuts.
Bring the donuts. That's good. Yeah, you're right. All you have to do is ask and they can say no. If they say yes, then fantastic. That's awesome.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
My mom grew up in Santa Rosa, so I used to just go there all the time as a kid. Yeah.
It's adult Disneyland.
Yeah, well, it's a lot different now than it was when I was a kid and I used to visit my grandparents.
How was your holiday?
It's kind of sleepier.
Busy.
Marijuana.
Marijuana.
Has a really strong
I'm just still like super
Doesn't-
kids.
I mean,
I mean,
they're-
there's that
Well, they just
I
have
can't
a new
believe
program,
you didn't,
so
and you had
went
the
out
opportunity.
to,
I can't believe.
My mom
Show
used
of
to
Life
say
Encore.
people-
It's my
when she
dream.
went to high school, she went to Santa Rosa.
I saw a lot of
Fine, you
and
have
then that,
sex.
yeah, and then like Kim is Preston on Broadway.
Yeah, you should have been there, man. Hate to tell you.
We're gonna be in Los Angeles for nephews'
Three Rivers.
They're playing like
What is
3
that?
nights in a row, like the week before we're there.
Oh my gosh. Ships passing in the night. Hey, yeah, they dropped that spring a tour. I'm so interested, but
But they do.
I just can't.
in the winter, they
Unless
do
we divide and
indoor.
conquer to go to a show, it's too tough.
Really?
One day soon.
Virtual
Yeah.
reality.
This is first year. He usually swims. But,
Yes, we were.
he took a year off.
You were just in California.
Yes.
When'd you fly in?
This morning at 6:30. The red eye.
Well, it's good you had a flight.
Yes, it is good.
You never know anymore.
Actually, we were really fortunate. We just got on the plane.
That's
and
good. I
came.
know it's like you need to like take
All the way
first
from
flights.
across the country.
Yeah, you never know. It's just roll the dice.
It is.
Get out there and hope that the plane takes off.
My friend was just caught up in the Southwest stuff that was going on.
What a nightmare.
Oh, that was.
She's an experienced traveler, so it's like as soon as it was canceled or whatever, they like booked it to the ticketing, while people like hung around and stuff. She's like, nope, something's wrong. Ticketing.
Yeah, yeah.
They were able to figure it out, but they were trying to visit her brother in Texas, and she had to drive out with her dad to Cleveland to get a flight, and her mom had to drive to Philly.
Yeah.
And I was like, I said, I would have given up. I'd be like, brother, I will see you next time.
That's right.
I love
This
you,
is a sign
but
from God.
yeah.
Are you ready for me? Or shall we just sit and visit for a while?
Oh, we'll just visit.
Do you want me to? Okay.
I am so sorry.
No, it's fine.
So that can take place. Okay, as we're multitasking. Got it. All right. Thank you, Peggy, for joining us. Angela was not able to join us. She got caught up with work. We all know how that is. But we see this lovely finished product of the strategic plan. And so I don't know if you mind kind of just, I don't know, either going through it with us, high overview of it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Peggy, I just want to let you know, we have a, oopsie. All right, we should be able to.
Okay, sure.
We have 4 people.
Articulate clearly,
Yes.
yes, from the diaphragm. Well, how nice to see all of you all this evening. I was saying to my husband, we were last in this meeting in November of 2021, and that was the day we drove immediately from the meeting to pick up our corgi puppy.
Oh,
That's right, yeah.
Whose name is Dolly Parton Newton.
That's awesome.
And she is awfully cute.
Aw.
So you guys may win the prize in my long career of having the longest planning, cycle that I've ever done. So if we recall, when we met here in November of 21, we had already done a parent survey that had been well attended to. And we were looking at, things that people said. My marching orders, I went back, these are all papers that I've been working on for you. So at the very beginning of this, it was, what do you see as the 3 most challenging issues facing your board and organization? Developing a unique and in-depth strategic plan to describe the role ECS will play in the educational landscape over the next 3 to 5 years. And then further, we need your help to develop a strategic planning process that will connect all ECS stakeholders universally to the plan. So this was a tall order. We began it, as you recall, in pretty high COVID, which was a very difficult time for anybody to think about the future. You were so absorbed in what had to happen now for the children and the teachers, et cetera. And we have a very comprehensive process, and we've checked in with you guys periodically. So you remember that we not only did the parent survey and learned a great deal from that, but then we went on to do 5 focus groups with parents. And that was still at the time where there were issues that had started the year before that were being held onto very tightly by some of the parents, not by any matter of means the majority, but there was still reasons why. Some people got on the phone with me 5 times. I did 5 focus groups, and they were there every time because that message needed to be heard and seen. After that, we spent some time with your teachers, and really was so touched and moved. I am a child of teachers, and I love teachers, and I was very caught by how hard COVID had been on them. We knew it was hard on families. We knew it was hard for the children. The teachers had a particular kind of challenge, and their voices were clear and specific about wanting to reconnect, rebond, be reinvigorated, and find the love and passion in teaching and the children that they had felt was really characteristic of this place. And so if you look at this plan, as I said, we did a lot of stuff. And then there was a little brief blip where we were working on executive transition. Lisa and John and some of us were working on that as well. And then that didn't happen. So this has been really quite a ride, guys. And I hope that that this is useful to you. The other thing about this document is it's very different to the one that you had. James had supplied me with your previous plan, which was comprehensive in the extreme and very tactical. The tactical part comes next. This really, I worked years ago with a man from McKinsey and Company, and he said he liked to call this kind of work intentions and aspirations. And so that's very much what is on these pages. What are your intentions? What are the things that you really want to focus and emphasize? And then how you're going to do it, we give you a quick, we'll go over that briefly, but there's a lot more work to be done to have this come alive and be useful to you. But we were working to try to listen and listen and listen and listen to the various important constituencies that the school community is. So, it was kind of startling to me when you see up here that we had more than 480 people express an opinion about this plan. So we got lots of input and lots of feedback. And I guess my strong hope is that this is going to be unifying and helpful, that it's going to be something that people can look at and hear a bit of their own voice in it and want to be a part in a most productive way. That's certainly the hope and the intention. So let's take a look at what we have here. And this is still marked draft. So if there are things that still need to be said or things that need to be removed, this is your plan, not mine. So I want it to be useful to you. That said, I would like to remind you, it's been about 16 months. So if we can find consensus, boy, wouldn't that be nice? Okay, so what you have here, when we were looking at, this was a report that I made from the parents. So engagement across curriculum, what should be protected was the question that these are some of the answers to. Engagement across curricula and strong focus on student performance. Rigor, opportunities to unite the children across the schools. Our identity as a charter school, meant to do things differently. Support of the community for the teachers. So again, as you see, all of this stuff was, when I sat down to try to write, I was trying to distill. And I want to really acknowledge Meryl, who is an excellent writer and was a terrific ally and friend on this project, because she would take things and say, you said, you don't have to take all of this. And then I looked at it and went, whoa, there's a lot of red. But it was very helpful, and I really genuinely appreciate it. And I took most of it, not all, but most of it. So we put a little bit at the top of the plan to just remind that this is characteristic and, again, part of what has made you an excellent educational institution throughout the years, that you really do value collaboration, that you believe none of us is as smart as all of us, that we see the value of community as being one of the important values that we share here, and that dialogue is the way you work. So that was the way in which this plan was put together. You all stop me at any point. As you know me, I'm large and enthusiastic and I can talk, but please don't hesitate to ask a question or raise a concern at any point.
I'll use that opportunity.
All right.
I just was hoping for clarification on the wording under family engagement and support. Use parents as agents of cohesion between school facilities and grade levels. Can you just talk to me a little bit more about what that means?
I sure can, but can we
Thank you.
put a pin in that? Because I
Absolutely.
was intending to go through the
Please
whole
do.
thing. So
Sorry.
we will return to that for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. So again, I think when we talked months and months ago, I told you that we would have no more than 5 goal areas.
Mhm.
That Peter Drucker says if you have 5, you have none. So it was again trying to take a whole lot of material and put it into different buckets. And so the buckets that seem to be most relevant, and the strategic planning committee has been great about going over all of this. So obviously teaching and learning, the teachers and the staff, family engagement and support, the community connection writ large, and then visibility and thought leadership. So those were the areas in which, as we looked back over things, it seemed like there was interest and value in trying to build those things out. Teaching and learning, well, what do you do here? I mean, what is this place? But there was and I'm sure all of you, as well as in your faculty, a sense that COVID had eroded and been destructive of a lot of the ability to be the educational place that you want to be. So the reinvigorate is a very deliberate word. Bring it back. There was also tremendous nostalgia for when you were littler, when everybody knew everybody else and there was not a stranger in the whole school, and that's never going to come again. But there are strategies in here to reconnect and to read. One of them is the one you asked about. We'll be back there, but it's to look at how you can look at what you've done so well and build on the educational innovation and the interdependence across the curriculum, and look at the new needs of children in this, whatever we are now, post-COVID period, where kids are relearning how to go to school in the very deepest way, beyond academic deficiencies or challenges, but also just how to be in a classroom and how to be with their teachers. And I don't know about you guys. I don't know that we will really learn or know what COVID did to us as a society, where it taught us to be afraid of each other and see each other as literally carriers of disease. And then we had an enormous community conversation after the murder of George Floyd that further made people look with anger and distrust at each other and not see ways. So I think we're a long way from knowing exactly what we need to do, but I think the fact that you kept talking throughout that whole period was really important. So there are some specific things that are listed under this to strengthen the interdisciplinary connection, which people value. The team teaching was mentioned over and over again, the value of the support. Support the growth of teacher agency. So teachers feel that the teachers, as you all know all of that I'm saying to you, but the teachers reported they choose to work here because they got to be the teacher they wanted to be. They could make the choices that made them feel like they were doing their best work. So reconnecting with all of those different kinds of things, the personalized assessment, the sense of the child as an individual and as a wonderful, interesting individual, not a problem, but somebody that is there. And so, so the kids have a sense of mastery and competence and pride, and that they can work with their teachers to be, again, as self-determined and interested as possible. I think I forgot to mention, we also did some stakeholder interviews and talked to some people individually. And one of the people that I personally spoke to, even though I told him I'm never supposed to tell anything that people say by not attribute it, but was the president at Chatham, who has so loved this opportunity. I'm saying that right, am I not? Yeah. And is so eager to continue to work with you all and hurry because he's going to retire. So he has lots of ideas about stronger partnership with universities and is eager to continue to build those out with you. And then academic excellence so that your children can live in the larger world and compete effectively in the larger world as well as within the school here is something that is reaffirmed and restated. So that's teaching and learning. How does that strike your ear? Is there something that you particularly like? Should we reorganize the order? Is there something critically missing around this very important part of your work?
I especially like the second and third bullets.
I bet you do, because I think you helped me write them. But I appreciated what you had to say. Yeah, but yeah.
Just flows.
Right. So again, I mean, if I'm not going anywhere. If you have a thought after this meeting is over that you want to communicate to me, I will try to incorporate it or make any. But if this is goal one, and it's attempting, again, as I said, these are intentions and aspirations. It's going to be up primarily to staff to build these things out. But if this is just the framework, this is just the intention.
I don't know if this is appropriate here, but we never mentioned anything. I said that about student aspirations. Where are you headed, or where do you hope to be headed?
Well, we may be able to get that on the next page, Meryl, under something, but I do definitely think the personalized assessment is a way of really focusing on the students' intentions and hopes and interests and that kind of thing. And the renewed commitment to academic excellence doesn't speak directly to the individual student, but it certainly says we're here to do everything for these kids that we possibly can, that they get the best shot because of their experiences here at the school. So the next one is teachers and staff, a best place to work. So again, it was really interesting to me and not surprising to you, but teachers choose this place. This was not something they just kind of fell into. They came here to be the kind of teacher that they want to be and to have the kind of relationship with the kids and their families and the administrators that they hope for. The issues around diversity and inclusion were throughout the conversations. And I try very much now, years ago when we were doing plans, we'd have a bucket around diversity and inclusion and equity. And I think that was a mistake. I think it needs to be everywhere. I think it is a core principle and that it should be visible. So if you don't see it enough, we need to do something about that. But here is a very strong intention to say, we've got some work to do. This is not done, and we're not, we're not yet satisfied that we are sufficiently capable in this regard, so that families see themselves here and want their children to be here and see this as a place that is better. In the teacher group, they said, we probably have more support people than any place I've ever worked, but they don't necessarily talk to each other. So each school building has resources, but needs to be, and again, this is pretty COVID related. I mean, it's one thing when you just run into somebody and you can go, oh, I forgot to tell you. It's quite another when you have to schedule a Zoom call and remember why you just did that. But there needs to be some real thoughtful intention around better coordination, making sure that the support people across the system know how better to help each other and the system as a whole. And then there was continued conversation about training, classroom management. As I said, I think kids have forgotten how to go to school in some cases, and the teachers were feeling that there was behaviors that they had not seen before that really threw them kind of for a loop. I hope it's getting better this year. I'm sure it is. I would think that a lot of that was just the strangeness of the last 2 years. But classroom management, every educational institution I've ever worked with works and thinks about how best to have classrooms that are productive and alive and not controlled and yet controlled, in the best possible way. Teachers there were several different kinds of tools that have been introduced here or not, but in the case you had some training around restorative justice principles, but they didn't feel like they had fully grasped it or fully knew how to use it. They sort of had an intellectual understanding, but putting it into practice. And then issues around trauma-informed care, because if there's anything that's true, we have too many children who have trauma in their life of one sort or another, and being able to concentrate in school is really challenging. So there are tools. Again, most of these were not things you were not doing. There was just an interest in seeing that they were more absorbed and applied in ways. And then this, the idea, again, this kind of goes, we kind of debated whether this explore the development of the state accredited program for new teachers orientation and induction went there or under visibility and thought leadership, because you all have some secret sauce here. And not only do the people who come to work here need to understand it fully and be part of it, but you've got things to teach others as well about how to make stronger teachers. I hope that the teachers will look at this plan whenever you all, and that's one thing before I quit, we do need to kind of think about what do you want to do with this. But I hope whenever you present this to the teachers, they feel the intention to say, you're really valuable, and we really want you to experience this as the best place to work, and help us make this true.
Is the last bullet point something very similar to what Mark just presented on?
Well, it's the state, the induction program that he was speaking about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's the other thing, I tell people, just go ahead and do it and we'll catch up to you. So maybe you're making progress on a lot of these things already. Family engagement and support. So I'm so sorry Angela can't be here, because she was really an outstanding partner to this process, and I just enjoyed her company on this path. But one of the things that Angela felt strongly about was how to best position the role of parents. I told you, I spent 5 focus groups with parents, and so I had lots of data and lots of information, but it was a very small group of parents out of the totality of the school. And so I had come to this writing of this plan to say, I heard in many of those parents who chose to participate that they missed being in the classroom, that they wanted to be more a part of the community again, that this was really important to them. And Angela was really determined, and you can talk to her, but she was really determined to say, parents have a role in the school, absolutely, but it is to be supportive and helpful. And we went back and forth on this a bit to try to get the right, and maybe it's not there yet, but the idea that parents will be encouraged to provide support to their children and to work effectively as part of the team. And as you all, as the board, have had lots of parent input, some of it pretty critical. We went through a period of time where I think we were talking to each other pretty much strictly in a high key. A lot of those COVID conversations were very pointed, not just you guys, everybody, because people were stressed and fearful and worried. So the intention here is to absolutely, again, to the parent constituents say, we value you and we want you to be part of us, but we want you to be part of us, not telling us what to do.
Can I make a comment on,
sure.
I'm not sure how to best word this. I think this is all great and super important, but and I know that a lot of attention to detail went into the words, but for me, I read it almost as if this isn't happening. And I just wonder if parents could take this and read it and say, I am supporting my children.
To more greatly support, or to further support, or something?
Parents will be, maybe I'd be really curious. I mean, for any parents that have students in the school here, but I just read that as like,
Or just are, parents are
Which bullet is
encouraged?
that?
Empowered.
Something. It just reads as they're not doing it, or they
Yeah.
weren't doing it, or they weren't working as a team. And there's already kind of some tension between parents and administration in the school. So I think just maybe a little bit more massaging of that wording might be
Yeah, I think
helpful.
that's great. And I think that's exactly what Andrew, you are now working on me with Angela again. So to further support.
Further,
Yeah.
further support, I think,
Yeah, or
is even
continue to
enough.
support.
Continue further,
Yeah.
anything like that to acknowledge that we
Done.
appreciate what they've done so far. We want to provide them opportunities and outlets to take it further.
Perfect. It shall be done. So parent participation, heard about parents who wanted to be back in the classroom, were kind of yearning to be involved in their kids' education in very real ways. So how do they work best as part of the team with the teachers, or continue to do those sorts of things? Now, there's your bullet point that you said, what the heck is this?
I would love clarity. Thank you.
And maybe we need to rework this language too. So here was the thought. As I said, there was yearning in more than one kind of constituent for the old days. And so the idea here is those days are gone. You are continuing to build out the high school. You are going to be a multi-facility, multi-campus entity. So if parents are lonesome for, feeling connected, how can they be engaged to help the different campuses have greater integration, alignment, some words like that. So that again, this is interesting what you're saying. I'm really thinking about it because, the vast majority of the parents expressed great satisfaction with the school. We did a survey, and I've forgotten the number of people we had in there, but it was hundreds. And we were not picking up, and yet this is somewhat very still responsive for the time I spent with individual voices.
So is this looking to have parents view ECS as a broader community versus individual schools?
Yes.
That's the intent
Yes, that's
behind the
intention.
bullet?
And
Okay.
to be agents for that. So in families where there's kids in the middle school and kids going into high school and kids, that they can be part of the weaving together of the schools as a system.
On board. Love it. I
Okay.
think, though, that was the only bullet I couldn't, without a conversation, understand.
Sure.
Maybe it's like, I had words in my head and they left me, but something about like supporting the community of ECS more broadly, right? And I don't know. I'd be happy to provide some whatever or feedback.
Sure.
I think community building language would be good too, because while I agree there are some parents who are wishing for that, I think it's likely that there are also parents who would love the community and the school their kid or kids are at,
Sure.
and don't care as much because they don't have the history of ECS used to be this tiny little thing together. So I think something that talks about parents will be involved with can help with community building generally. It can have different meanings for different parents,
for
and you
different
can work
parents,
on
sure.
multiple levels.
Yeah.
But as opposed to this, I read as your goal as parents is multi-building cohesion. I don't know that that's going to speak to all of our parents,
Yeah.
but I think
No, I'm sure it
community building
won't. And again, it's also families that have one child versus families that have three children. I mean, this is more applicable. It's not universal, so it should not feel as it was saying everybody has to do this. But if you have a chance, I guess is what I was saying, rather than sort of saying, why isn't it that way? I guess I was trying to say, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Kind of over and over again. How do we, as a group, say, yeah, we all want to feel a strong sense of unity, community, watching our children grow and progress. That's all satisfying for most everybody and who have chosen a school like ECS. So I'll work on this language a little bit and try to make it a little bit more clear, I guess, just add a little clarity. You see, again, I think there is work to be done on engaging families of color in the way in which recruitment happens. I know you all don't cream. I know you take who comes and, all of those kinds of things, but continuing to be thoughtful about how to really make it clear across socioeconomic, all kinds of different kinds of dimensions, that if your child wants to come and do this kind of work, we want them here. And we want to make this place a place where they feel great, welcome in the deepest sense. And that often starts with being able to talk to their parents in some way that is believable. So, so you see there, rigorous, constant, transparent communication. You all do a lot of communication and are very thorough in it. There still were, and I think in every plan I have ever done, small organization, big organization, communication is just a bear. It is just hard for people to feel like they have enough knowledge or they have access to one of the things that was really funny to me about focus groups, and again, why would people know this? This is just my work in life, but a focus group, you don't have the client in the meeting with you. The whole point of a focus group is to talk to constituents and get them to give you feedback that they might be unwilling to say in front of the client. I mean, that's the whole point. And yet, every one of those Tuesday nights, it's like, where's James? Why isn't John here? And I'm like, well, you got to settle for me, baby. I mean, this is as good as it gets, and I don't work there. Are we clear? And I will not be quoting you. So, again, there was just a sort of from various and sundry places, how can we continue to try to see that our communication is transparent, inclusive, and everything? And of course, that does mean they have to read the email, which doesn't always happen. All right, so one of the things that you all have been known for and that has made you strong and effective is that you really are connected with the community. One of the things I noticed the first when I started working with you was the citizen word and the intention about building citizens. This also is my world. The Bear Center, under my leadership, has worked with over 3,000 nonprofits in this community, and there is a whole lot of good people out there doing a whole lot of interesting stuff that would love to have your students and your faculty and your administration know them and work with them as is possible. So there is. You already have some very strong partners that were very pleased with their experience with you. There are potential partners that can grow and pop up here, and so this idea here is that the community benefits from association with ECS, and ECS benefits from association with the community. So again, the distinctive culture of belonging and a shared destiny that we definitely heard about people, particularly as you're going more into the high school, about team sports, about arts experiences, about those kinds of things, continuing to think about the co-curricular or whatever the appropriate word is these days. I know it's not extracurricular anymore, but whatever, at any rate, those things, and so there was interest when you go all the way back to look at the data in that initial survey, there was interest in it. It came out in the focus groups, et cetera, et cetera. So having really good answers to what you choose to do about that and how you choose to engage, but again, also looking at possible partners. I hope that there's less intense talk about mental health than there was last year, but man, I mean, and you guys were not my only school student, school client, and I was working with the Penguins Foundation who were doing all this stuff on mental health, and just the concern for our children's
Lives.
Lives, yeah. And I'm a grandmother, and it breaks my heart that we are having this conversation. I mean, it just flat breaks my heart. And yet I have dear friends who are strong parents who are struggling with their own children's really severe. So this is real. So how you all are doing that and the intention to continue to do it. And, in addition to COVID, it seems to be, it's just a really hard time to be growing up. So what does that mean and how does that work? And recognizing that kids are different. The customization kind of moves through this whole plan too. There are people working on teacher diversity. I worked with FAME. I don't know if you all know that program. That's a college access program. Worked with Crossroads Foundation, also a college access program, and the emphasis on the lack of diversity in teachers and role models has come up, and I know there are places all over town that are working on that, that see that as one of the real answers to how do we help children embrace diversity and see value in other people and all that kind of thing. So there's that, there's, science and the arts, internships, career opportunities. And again, none of this is new to you. It's not like you don't do this or anything. It's just, how can you do it more and be very willing to be intentional and visible. A lot of things happen that nobody knows about, except the people who are part of it. And you all have also got to have that sort of marketing mentality that says, when we're doing something really cool, we need to be sure that other people know we're doing that. And that also you give the opportunity for your partner to get some benefits. I'm a fundraiser in my DNA. I have raised money in this town for a long time, and this is how you get money. And so, you all have got the stories to tell. You've got the stuff, but I don't think it always gets the attention that it could because you're busy. But in partnership, part of the way people want to continue to partner is that they feel visible and seen, as well as you being visible and seen, and that's intention. That doesn't happen without, some work and some care on that. So anything about this that you are going to, be loud, be proud, and be a really fine partner across lots of different ways of working?
So are you speaking to the plan overall or the community connection?
Yeah, just the
Thank
community
you.
connection. And then finally, one of the things that I observe about many of my clients is that they are the best kept secret. Now, I don't think that's really true here. I think that part of what happened was you were very visible in the educational community 10 years ago, or maybe more than that. And then COVID just laid a path through all of that kind of thing for education in general. And so I think you've got the stuff, guys. I think you need to make sure that the world knows more about how you work and who's here and your children and what they're doing and the teachers and what they're doing. And so this is very thoughtful and intentional. Now, this visibility and thought leadership really began as a conversation when we were going to have executive transition, when John was going to move out of his, I sort of call you headmaster, I know that's not role, and into a different role. And so some of this visibility and thought leadership was going to be that there was going to be some additional time from a very well-respected leader in the community to do this, but you still got to do it somehow or another, as however the transition occurs, which it will occur over time, says she who was supposed to retire 3 years ago, but I still think I'm going to. At any rate, this is a hard thing, but still. So ECS be nationally recognized as a center for igniting passion for teaching, learning, and curiosity through sustainability. I love all of those words, and I owe those mostly to John. So idea again, this is about intention, that there are strong leaders in your staff and they should be in the community more. How do they do that with all the work they already have on their plate? But if the culture is that we would like to see you serve on boards or commissions or speak at conferences or be a panelist or whatever the way is you can do that, if there's real support for faculty and administration to know that they will be supported and helped to do that, then that will be good. And so there is that piece. You're going to get this high school fully operational, fully finished, and the full district. And so what does that mean? How does that give you opportunity and recognition? A center for teacher enrichment, think this is John's idea, but I think in many ways he was responding to some of what the teachers were saying about being disconnected and lonesome and not sure and all of those things because of the COVID interruption. And so this idea that this is again, certainly good for ECS, but really role modeling and good for the larger educational community as a way of showing how teachers can be fully present and fully engaged. And then said, I've fundraiser my DNA. That last one is, and that will all be evaluated for potential revenue, and that may be fees and consulting and those kinds of things, and certainly foundation support, which you already have and will continue to have. But there's a new generation of, who's this new guy at the Heinz Endowment, and what's he going to care about? And are you going to look really good to him? Who knows? But it's going on all over the place. We're having a generational shift in the leadership of our foundations. The foundations went through a major reset during COVID and started funding things they'd never funded before. And now they're sort of going, do we still fund food? I mean, they began much more interested in human need than some of the more lofty stuff. Well, is that still going to continue? Or are we going to go back? The foundation community is supposed to be our research and development arm. If you look at the nonprofit world as a system, foundations are supposed to be the place where we go with a new idea. And that's not always true, but that's their role. They are not there to sustain us or to keep us going indefinitely. They are there to spark and catalyze. So you got spark, you got catalyst, go get it, is what I say. I think that I keep up with how much money is given by Americans, and it was nearly $500 million last year. I mean, it is extraordinary the amount of money that is being contributed, and a whole lot of that's being contributed by us individuals. So it's not just the foundations or the corporations who want to see a workforce that is as capable and smart as possible, but it's also everybody else. And I'm always interested in grandparents, because grandparents of some of these children are no longer paying for college. They're no longer doing some of those things, and they love those kids like a rock. And so how do you also create opportunities for extended family members to support the children here at this school? All kinds of things that can happen.
I have one other comment, if
Sure.
that's all right. So I really like what you said that resonated with me, was that diversity, equity, inclusion practices are permeated throughout versus having its own column. I think the only one that's outwardly missing is the last one, visibility and thought leadership. That's the only one I can not point to a specific topic related to diversity, underrepresented families. And I think that if we're saying, especially here, that we want to be nationally recognized, we need to have that at the forefront too.
I think that's a very valid comment, and I will add a bullet there, because again, I have such a strong sense that is the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
That the educational organizations and higher ed is going through this in a big way, that figure out how to really mine the talent and the intelligence and the opportunity from as many different people as they can will succeed, and those who don't will absolutely fail. So yeah, I will see that it gets worked in there.
And I think you're going to see that play out in 5.3.
Okay.
Right up front of that. That's going to be the choice.
Mm-hmm.
They don't pull any punches in that.
Okay. Thanks.
So, very quickly, what you have next is the work that has to be done by you guys. And that is that we need to assign responsibility for various tasks, a little bit of how you're going to know whether it was successful. In some cases, we have another column here that is urgency, priority, or timeline, because this is a 3-year plan. It's not intended that everything happens at the same time, and I can add that too, because I think that's kind of important, that you kind of evaluate this. And is this board responsibility? Is it committee responsibility? Is it administration responsibility? Is it faculty responsibility? Where does the buck stop, and who's supposed to be getting things done? And so this will, each one of those objectives that are here in the bullet points, find ways to strengthen interdisciplinary connections and practices, will, have two or three ways in which it will be built out, and so on and so forth. Each one of the objectives will have the plan, if you will, what happens next with it. And so that's usually what happens with our clients is that probably the administrators take it and make a first pass and assign responsibility as they see it across these different dimensions, bring it back to the board. The board takes a look at that and says, okay, what's our part of all of this work? And some of these things may not stand up to further scrutiny. It may be that if nobody, I have said to my clients on occasion, if there is not a live human being's name that we can write down next to this, it doesn't matter how good an idea is, it's never going to go anywhere. So this is not meant to be a constraint, it's meant to be helpful. So if as you work on this, you think, that sounded nice, but really, we don't have anybody that has time for that or wants to do it or whatever, just take it out. You're going to have this in Word. I think I said it in PDF, but you're going to have it in Word, so it's intended to be a living document. And to that end, the board should periodically revisit it. So, different boards, some of our boards have made a laminated placemat of this thing, and it just kind of comes to the meeting and lays on the table. And as you're deliberating something, you go, well, that's pretty good about that, or I don't see how that fits with what we have said we are going to do. Others, once every 6 months, there's a check-in, and you kind of go back over the objectives and the timelines and that kind of thing and say, we did. And usually with my clients, they do about half of it in the first year. The things that are really interesting and exciting to them, they just get it done. And then those other things kind of string out over time. But this is intended to be a 3-year plan. So you're going to be constantly adapting and working on it. But if you don't revisit it, it will die. So the board needs to, and again, I'm sorry Angela couldn't be with us because she'd be the logical, responsible party. You can do it however you want to, but you need to have a plan about how you're going to do it. And then at your next annual retreat, this ought to be a good way for you to sort of check in with each other. Are these still the goal areas that we think are important? What's changed in our environment? What isn't here now? All of that kind of thing. And to whatever degree it makes sense, staff should report according to this framework. So that we have a conversation going on all the time about this is what matters to us and how are each of our leaders supporting what matters to us, and try to, if where the language works for you, use it because we want people to get accustomed to it. So any questions about, as I said, I'm more than happy to take email, if you all get away and think, oh, no, I forgot, or, whatever, please, send it probably to John, and then John can send it to me, but you also can send it directly to me if you wish. And then the board needs to say when you're going to work on this. Are you going to approve it? Yeah, I'll send you back. I'll make these edits that we discussed, and I will send it back to you so that you'll have it for your next meeting. But you really should make a formal motion. I mean, it needs to, be like a real thing. And then when are we going to build out the implementation aspect? Once the board has approved it, then you need to announce it. And you can do that lots of ways. Some of my clients put it on the website, put the front page on the website. You may or may not want to have all that detail. You can take, you can pick and choose, but there's something that is available to the school community. Do you have a whole school meetings coming up or anything like that?
So I think the next group, if I can jump in here, is that between now and next month, leadership here are going to sort of surround this and build out a plan to develop it and flesh
Okay.
it out.
Okay.
Which, because it's a beautiful opportunity to socialize it and get buy-in, because ultimately we need folks to lean in and begin to develop this with us. My hope is that we have that plan, and Peggy, I know your contractual relationship is coming to a close, but have you involved in those early iterations? So by next month, be able to report out to the board, this is how we're going to flesh it out, and this is how we perceive socializing this journey and how long it might take. So ultimately, I think, yes, we should be able to get to a board meeting next month where we can approve the framework, but I think in the context of a real plan to flesh it out and move forward, and share that out at the next board meeting. Because I think it is a wonderful opportunity. Number one, it is a vital tool for us in our work, and you're absolutely right. It is ultimately the piece that you evaluate the CEO's work on. But from our day-to-day work and our heads of department and so on and so forth, the sooner we flesh it out, the better. Because ultimately, it's our GPS going forward, and then the board's work of ensuring that we're going at a rapid rate. So I'm super excited.
That's great. Well, the only thing I would say is when you get it, as you're thinking about socializing it, do something that socializes it to everybody. Yeah, and invite people to play in whatever way possible, but, make it, because I think I told the people that were on those calls with me that they would eventually, and who thought it would take this long, but there would be a plan and it would be available and all of that. So as I said, you can use or choose to protect as much or as little as you wish to, but I do think that trying to use it also as a transparency tool is a real good faith thing. I've loved working with you all. I mean, it has taken us forever, but I really think this is such a good place, and you're doing really important work. And I have appreciated the opportunity to work with you on it. I hope it's been helpful.
Yeah, it's been a great experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really enjoyed working with you.
Me too, Lisa. So, okay, let me know, John. I'm not leaving. Not yet.
I've got a few months, right?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the end of your 3-year
You're
plan.
Oh, Lord.
I can retire.
Yeah, and now I can retire soon. I can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy.